Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 201. Shizun, how can I humiliate you? Now that people from Beaten Manor had left, Huang Xiaoyu had no more reason to stay no matter how much he wanted to. He could only go up the mountain if he wanted to save face. Mo Ran wanted to end the battle quickly, so he took the lead and rushed into Mount Wang's barrier. The people from Jiangdong Hall followed closely behind him. As soon as they entered the enchanted barrier, Mo Ran was still fine, but the people of Jiangdong Hall all screamed. There were dead people. There were dead people everywhere. There were fierce corpses all over the ground, lying on the ground and hanging on the treetops. They were crawling, twisting, and moving at an extremely slow pace towards every living person. Mount Huang had turned into a mountain of corpses. Seeing this, Huang Xiaoyu took the lead and whipped out his horsetail whisk. In the blink of an eye, 4 or 5 heads of the fierce corpses were chopped off. Before Mo Ran could determine as to why this old man suddenly became so valiant, he heard him cry out in pain and fall to the ground in an extremely exaggerated posture. His eyes rolled back and he coughed up blood. Mo Ran. The disciples of Jiangdong Hall hurriedly rushed towards him. Senior Huang. Senior. It doesn't matter. Although this old man is heavily injured, I can still contribute some strength. Huang Xiaoyu struggled to get up, but after 2 steps, his knees went soft and he fell back to the ground, gasping for breath. The disciples said anxiously, Senior, it's better if you rest outside. There are too many evil spirits here. I'm afraid your heart meridian will be damaged. Yes, yes. At first, Huang Xiaoyu tried his best to refuse. As he refused, he vomited blood. The blood was still mixed with sticky spit. It was indescribably disgusting. After a few repeats of this, Huang Xiaoyu led most of the Jiangdong Hall disciples and put on a regretful expression. The crowd was like a school of carps crossing the river. They rushed out of the barrier of Mount Huang. This barrier prevented people from entering, but it did not prevent people from going out. Soon, there were only a few people from Jiangdong Hall who stayed behind. At this time, a young man suddenly came down from the foothills in front of them. The young man had light golden hair, deep blue eyes and a cold expression. He and Mo Ran looked at each other, both slightly startled. Mo Ran reacted first. Mei Xiong. Mei Hangxiu nodded, cold and obviously not fond of words. Mo Ran asked anxiously, have you seen my Shizun and the others? They're right ahead. As he said this, a corpse staggered up from behind Mei Hangxiu. Just as Mo Ran was about to remind him, he saw a cold sword light. Mei Hangxiu had already summoned his sword and without turning his head, he stabbed a hole in the corpse's chest. He pulled out the sword with a puff. Black liquid flowed from the tip of the sword. Mei Hangxiu's expression was grave and stern. He wiped away the blood on the sword and said, just hike uphill and go straight ahead. The first mountain path is to the left. There are too many corpses. We are currently clearing the path. Everyone is there. Mo Ran thanked him and was about to go up when Mei Hangxiu stopped him again. Wait. Is something the matter, Mei Xiong? The palace master and Madame Rong are old friends. He was worried and had me turn back to see the 2 from the Rufeng sect. How are they? Are they still outside? When Mo Ran heard this, his heart relaxed. He said, they are still waiting outside. Nangong Si has cast a binding spell on himself. But Huang Xiaoyu has gone out. I'm afraid he will try to do something to make things difficult for them. I'll have to ask you to take care of them. Mei Hangxiu pursed his lips and didn't say anything else. With a tap of his foot, he disappeared from the end of the barrier. Mo Ran didn't dally any longer and immediately rushed to join the group. It was strange. He originally thought that with so many corpses, he should have seen the remains of their own group on the road, but there weren't any. There were chopped up corpses and rotten flesh everywhere. Although it was disgusting, there weren't any cultivators' remains mixed in. Was it because all the sect leaders had brought their outstanding elites? He didn't have the leisure to think about it. He immediately threw himself into the battle to clean up the foothills. If it was said that he had just walked along the place where everyone had already fought, those fierce corpses had already been weakened to the point where they didn't have any fighting strength. But now that he started, he felt even more strange. It was too easy. He felt that he wasn't fighting with evil spirits at all. It was as if he was slaughtering ordinary people without the strength to even truss a chicken. This situation made him anxious. He vaguely had an extremely terrifying guess. He. Suddenly, a fierce corpse hung down from the tree in front of him. Its hair was disheveled and it reached out to grab Moran's neck. Moran suddenly swept back. The fierce corpse immediately turned its head, its nostrils twitching. It grabbed his shoulder with one hand and wanted to bring its sinister rotten face closer. Moran was extremely disgusted, but he still took advantage of this opportunity to observe it first. Then, he lifted his foot and ruthlessly kicked it into the crowd of fierce corpse, knocking down several fierce corpses that came over. Moran. At this time, Xuemeng also fought back to back with him. Xuemeng gasped for breath. His cheeks were splashed with some black blood. His eyes were like lightning. He said in a low voice, "What's going on? These fierce corpses were a joke. Are we playing pretend battle? How can they be this weak?" Moran's eyes were cold, a chill ran down his spine. In his previous life, Taxian Jun read and studied all kinds demonic techniques. He already had a vague guess in his mind. However, he didn't have enough clues at the moment, so he couldn't make a firm conclusion. Moran gritted his teeth and said, "These aren't corpses of cultivators. They were ordinary people." "What?" Xuemeng was shocked. He turned his head and asked, "These people were already charred to the point of black ash. How can you tell if they were cultivators or not?" "Hell, I can't even determine whether they were men or women." Moran didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, "If I were fighting you and I didn't dodge in time, making you grab my shoulder, what would you do? Why would you expose your shoulder to me? This is a big taboo in fighting techniques. Even 11 or 12-year-old disciples wouldn't make such a mistake." "Why is it a big taboo?" "Because it's too close to your spirit core. Grabbing your shoulder is equivalent to grabbing half of your spirit core. The other hand can stab into your chest and that would immediately decide life and death." Moran said, "Right, just now a fierce corpse tried to grab me just like that." Xuemeng was shocked. "How can you be so careless? Do you want to die?" Moran interrupted him, "It didn't do anything else." "Ah. At such a close distance, it didn't think to use its other hand to attack my spirit core. For cultivators, protecting their own spirit core and attacking other cultivators' spirit core in close proximity is already a deep-rooted habit. Just like what you said, even 11 or 12-year-old cultivators would do this. Even if they become fierce corpses after death, the basic of fighting hand-to-hand combat will not change. However, this corpse didn't do this." Moran paused for a moment, then said in a low voice, "As to why it did not do it? There are two possibilities: it can't do it or it didn't think to do it." "Xuemeng." Moran said, "It was a rare opportunity and both the hands and feet of this fierce corpse are intact. It can definitely do it. So, the reason could only be because it didn't think to do it. When these corpses were alive, most of them were probably just ordinary people. Even when they were turned into fierce corpses, they were no match for these elite cultivators. This is why until now, there hasn't been a single injured cultivator in our side." Xuemeng said in surprise, "How can this be? What was Su Xuanglin doing piling Mount Huang with corpses of ordinary people? If he had the mental strength, why didn't he control the corpses of cultivators?" Moran said, "It's the same as before. He can't do it, or he didn't think of it. How can he not think of it? Right. So, there's only one answer: he can't do it. Moran's gaze was heavy. Sparks splashed in his eyes like boiling molten iron falling into the night ocean. Su Xuanglin's spiritual power is not enough to control so many cultivators with the Zhenlong chess formation. Then it's useless if he can only control these soft-footed shrimps. Xuemeng said as he kicked back another pile of fierce corpses. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What could this do? This won't be able to stop us. Moran didn't say anything else. The guess in his mind was becoming clearer and clearer. He looked at the fierce corpses that were fighting with the crowd of cultivators, and soon, he discovered an extremely strange phenomenon. When the corpses that had their limbs or head cut off and fell to the ground, tiny vines would immediately extend out and directly pierce into their chests. Then, with a poof sound, the flesh on the chest along with the heart would be abruptly pulled into the ground, disappearing without a trace. This was originally something that was extremely easy to discover. However, with the chaotic situation, everyone was overwhelmed. Those vines were small and thin. If one didn't stand still and observe from the sidelines, they wouldn't be able to notice them at all. Moran. Xuemeng was still calling him, but Moran didn't hear his voice at all. Suddenly, he flew up and grabbed a fierce corpse's neck. He flipped a concealed dagger in his hand and stabbed the heart of that fierce corpse. Black blood instantly splashed all over his face. Xuemeng suddenly opened his mouth wide and took 2 steps back. He was actually speechless. He felt that Moran must have gone crazy. Moran tilted half of his well-defined face. He quickly and fiercely pulled out the fierce corpse's black-gray heart and shattered it, revealing a black chess piece inside. This wasn't surprising. The fierce corpse on Mount Huang were obviously under the control of the Zhenlong chess formation. That was why they were acting as accomplices. Moran was not looking for this chess piece though. He rummaged through the clotted blood and endured the strong stench. Xuemeng couldn't take it anymore. He bent over and vomited. Are you sick? This is too disgusting. Bleh. Moran ignored him. His fingers moved through the blood clots and soon found what he was looking for. On the back of the chess piece, there was a small red insect tightly clinging to it. It was the soul-devouring insect. At the same time, dozens of thin and soft vines suddenly sprang up from the ground and attacked Moran's bloody hands. He quickly dodged, but the vines moved faster and faster. They were determined to wrap the chess piece and the insect into the earth's core. Moran now completely understood Su Xuanglin's intention and method. His hair stood on end and his blood turned cold. Because in this world, except for Taxian Jun in his previous life, no one would think of creating this kind of demonic secret technique. Just like how the myriad incantation waves was created by Chu Wanning, everything in front of Moran, the chess piece, the soul-devouring insect, the fierce corpses and all these arrangements. It all pointed to a formation that Moran couldn't be more familiar with. The shared heart array. This was the formation that he personally created in his previous life. If he was still guessing before, then the reappearance of this formation was like a blow to his head. Its reappearance undoubtedly confirmed 2 things. First, other than himself, there must be someone else who was reborn in this world. Second, that person who was reborn must be familiar with the techniques used by Taxian Jun in his previous life. Moran's hands trembled slightly. Black blood kept dripping from the gaps of his fingers. The black chess piece and the red insect were tightly held in his palm. He dodged the flying vines, but his mind was in a mess. In the chaos and horror, he suddenly remembered pieces of memories of his previous life. At that time, he was only 19 years old. The heavenly rift had just concluded and the barrier with the ghost realm had just been mended. Shi Mei had just passed away. Behind everyone's back, he secretly practiced the Zhenlong chess formation for almost half a year. Until that day. The 19-year-old Mo Weio sat cross-legged and slowly opened his eyes. Spreading out his palms, there were 2 black chess pieces lying in his palms. It was the first time in his life that he had refined the Zhenlong chess formation. Before that, he had tried thousands of methods, but they all ended in failure. He couldn't understand the obscure words written in the forbidden technique remnant scroll, but he could not ask Chu Wanning. In fact, during that time, he was no longer willing to talk to Chu Wanning. Shi Mei's death became a gap that could never be filled between them. Their relationship as Shizun and disciple had died and was now in name only. In the last few months, whenever he deigned to show his evil face, he would occasionally come across the man in white while walking on the road. But every time they met, he would pretend that he didn't see him and he would walk away without saying a word. In fact, there were several occasions when he would brush past Chu Wanning in Nahi Bridge. Out of the corner of his eyes, he noticed how Chu Wanning seemed to want to say something to him. Unfortunately, Chu Wanning's dignity didn't allow him to take the initiative to call to his disciple, and Mo Ran would not give him the chance to change his mind. He would walk on and leave without looking back. In the end, they parted ways. Without anyone's help and guidance, Mo Ran spent a long time to barely understand the meaning of the incomplete forbidden technique remnant scroll. However, he early on understood the most critical point of the Zhenlong chess formation, which was all chess pieces, whether it was the black chess piece or the more powerful white chess piece that could empathize with the caster, were all formed from the caster's spiritual energy. The amount of spiritual energy required to create a single chess piece was astonishingly immense. The spiritual power for refining a black chess piece was enough to perform hundreds of big moves, and refining a white chess piece could almost exhaust the spiritual power of a grandmaster like Chu Wanning in an instant. In other words, even if a person was exceptionally smart and had a great understanding of the Zhenlong chess formation, it would be useless if they don't have enough spiritual power and would be limited to theorizing the technique. Although Mo Ran was talented and had abundant spiritual energy, he was still a youth who hadn't even reached 20 years of age yet. So, after spending all his effort and failing several times, he had only managed to refine 2 black chess pieces. These 2 black chess pieces that were now laying in his palm. Mo Ran stared at the 2 black chess pieces, his eyes flashing with a strange light. In the dark room, with only a candlestick that was about to burn out was lit, illuminating his face. He did it. At that time, he wasn't thinking about the number of chess pieces at all. He was only ecstatic because he had successfully refined a chess piece for Zhenlong chess formation. He did it. He was such a handsome person, but at that time he suddenly had the ferocious appearance of a beast. When he walked out of the dark room, his head got dizzy. Half of it was because of the bliss and the other half was because these 2 chess pieces had exhausted all his spiritual energy. His whole body was exhausted. When he walked outside and was illuminated by the dazzling sunlight, he immediately felt dizzy and couldn't breathe. His face turned red and white for a while. A blurry scene swayed in front of his eyes. In the distance, he saw 2 disciples of Shi Shengpeak approaching him. He only had enough presence of mind to immediately hide the 2 black chess pieces in his kinkan bag as soon as possible. Then, his legs went soft and he fell unconscious to the ground. In a half-asleep half-awake state, he realized that he had been brought back to the disciples' room and was lying on a bed that wasn't very spacious. He opened his eyes slightly and saw a person sitting by the bed. He had a fever and a headache. He couldn't see that person's appearance clearly, but he could vaguely feel that person's eyes were looking at him. They were so concerned, so attentive, so gentle, and even seemed to be filled with self-reproach. She. His lips opened and closed, but his voice was so hoarse that he couldn't say a complete sentence. Tears flowed down his face first. That white figure paused for a moment. Then, Mo Ran felt a warm hand caressing his face. That person wiped away the tears on his cheeks. That person sighed softly and said, "Why are you crying? Shi Mei, are you back? Can you not leave? Don't die. Don't leave me alone. Ever since my mother left, there's no other person in this world who treats me so gently and well like you do. There's no other person who doesn't dislike me and is willing to stay by my side. Shimei, don't leave. His hot tears couldn't be stopped no matter what. He also felt that he was very useless, but he kept crying. In his dreams and while awake, he kept crying. That person just sat by his bed and kept him company. Later on, that person held his hand without saying anything. That clumsy person just stayed by his side and didn't leave for even a moment. Mo Ran thought of the 2 zhenlong chess pieces in his kinkan bag. He also knew that those chess pieces were a source of evil, that they were akin to demonic seeds. However, they were also the bargaining chips that he could use to fight against the heavens and the earth to get what he wanted. In fact, refining the chess pieces didn't only require his spiritual power. It also meant he has to sacrifice his fairly pure soul. With wet eyelashes and hazy vision, he looked at Shimei's phantom as he muttered, "I'm sorry. If you were still here, I would also. I also don't want to walk on this path." But he didn't have the strength to say the second half of the sentence. He fell into a deep sleep once again. When he woke up again, that white-clothed man had already left. Mo Ran felt that this was a scene from his dream. But he remembered that there was originally a pot of incense burning in the room. It was used by Xue Zhenyang to calm his nerves. It was very fragrant, but he didn't really like the scent of it. The incense was already extinguished. It was a very long incense and it wasn't completely burned yet. Meaning, someone deliberate extinguished it. Who was it that came here? He sat up and stared blankly at the incense burner. He thought for a long time, but he couldn't figure it out. In the end, he simply stopped thinking about it. He saw that his clothes, accessories, as well as his holy weapon and his kinkan bag were all neatly placed on the table. He came back to his senses and hurriedly got down barefooted to get his kinkan bag. He opened it immediately. Fortunately, the 3 knots he deliberately tied before he fainted were still the same 3 knots. No one had touched them. Mo Ran let out a sigh of relief and rummaged through the bag. He saw that the 2 zhenlong chess pieces, as black as the night, were laying in the corner of the pouch like 2 ghostly eyes harboring evil intentions, as if they wanted to devour him. He stared at the 2 chess pieces in a daze for a while. This was probably fate. If Chu Wanning had gone through Mo Ran's kinkan bag at that time, everything would have changed. But Chu Wanning wouldn't casually flip through other people's things. Even if the bag was open, he wouldn't even think to look through it. Mo Ran took out the chess pieces. The jut on his throat bobbed and his heart beat like a drum. What should he do now? How should he use these 2 chess pieces? This was the first time he had refined such as a sharp weapon. He couldn't wait to try it, but who should he look for? The thought that came to his mind was like a flash of lightning. It was an extremely crazy idea. Chu Wanning. He wanted to put the chess piece into Chu Wanning's body. After putting the piece inside him, would that cold, heartless, hypocrite man obey his every order from now on? Would he never stand if he was told to kneel? Could he make Chu Wanning kneel in front of him and apologize? Could he make Chu Wanning fall at his feet? Could he make Chu Wanning call him master? Could he stab him and bite him? Extreme excitement made the light in Mo Ran's eyes begin to distort. Yes, torture him. For this high and mighty cultivator, what would be the most painful? The most shameful? Humiliate him. Mo Ran held the 2 chess pieces tightly. His mouth felt hot, his tongue was dry. He was overcome by a strong sense of excitement and anticipation. He licked his chapped lips. He couldn't wait to do this. He wanted to see Chu Wanning lower his pale neck. Then he would reach out and touch it, feel that slight tremble and then break his neck? Crush his bones. Mo Ran felt unhappy. He felt empty and unsatisfied for no reason. It was too boring to let Chu Wanning die. Even if he imagined it, he was unwilling. He wanted to see him cry, he wanted to see him crawl, he wanted to see him live a life worse than death, ashamed and indignant. He always felt that there was a better way to vent his anger. He put a chess piece to his lips. As soon as it touched his lips, he felt how cold the piece was. He muttered in a low voice, "You can't stop me, Chu Wanning. There will be such a day soon. I will make you." Make him what? He hadn't thought it through at that time. He didn't know that a large part of his surging desire at the moment was to conquer his lust for Chu Wanning. His male instinct was that terrible. He wanted to bury the first demonic seed that he refined into Chu Wanning's body. He wanted to dirty him. He got up, pushed the door and walked out. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 202. Shizun's first encounter with a demon. After circling around the Red Lotus Pavilion a few times, Moran had calmed down and did not execute his crazy idea. It was too dangerous. This was his first time to refine a Zhenlong chess piece and he had never tried activating it before. If he rashly made a move on the number 1 Grandmaster, he was afraid that he might forfeit his life. So, after hesitating again and again, Moran controlled his impulse and left the Red Lotus Pavilion. After some consideration, he finally chose to use these 2 Zhenlong chess pieces on the 2 junior disciples of Shi Shengpeak. He needed to experiment many times and choosing a junior disciple with an unstable core foundation was the safest choice. It was a slightly cold night and the darkness shrouded the mountain peak. Moran moved very quickly, looking at the 2 youths who were still fooling around by the river. He was so nervous that even his hands were trembling and his pupils shrunk. The moonlight shone on his pale face. He pursed his lips, moved his fingertips slightly and stepped out. That was the first time he used such a heinous forbidden technique and he was both excited and nervous at the same time. Bang! The 2 suddenly knelt on the ground. Moran was like a bird startled by the twang of a bow, like a murderer who had just killed someone. He immediately hid in the nearby bushes with his heart felt like it was going to jump out of his throat. Bang, bang, bang. When he saw the 2 of them stayed them kneeling stiffly in the same spot, not moving at all for a long time, only then did his wildly beating heart slowly calm down. His inner clothes were already soaked with cold sweat, and his scalp was numb. He walked out. Under the moonlight, he stood by the riverbank. This time he was calmer than before, although he still did not dare to breathe. He was as cautious as a slithering snake in the night. Moran lowered his head and looked at the 2 junior disciples. The 2 who were laughing and playing earlier, now had no color on their faces. They were as calm as stagnant water, kneeling on the ground motionlessly. Moran stared at them, but they did not raise their heads and just continued to kneel like that. Moran tried to move his fingertips again, activating the technique. The 2 junior disciples kowtowed and then stood up, turning their eyes to him. In the 2 pairs of black eyes, Moran saw his own reflection. The reflection was not very clear, but for some reason, Moran felt that he had seen it clearly. He saw it so clearly that not a single drop of water could escape his eyes. He saw a ghost with a pale face and red eyes against the backdrop of the full moon. Moran heard his own voice, trembling and hoarsely probing, "Tell me your name." What answered him were 2 calm voices saying, "It's not up to me." Moran's heart was beating violently, his blood was flowing freely in his body. The jut of his throat bobbed as he continued to ask in a low voice, "Where are you?" "Not up to me." "What time is it?" "Not up to me." To test whether low-level black pieces were successfully controlled by the Zhenlong chess formation, the aspect of name, location, and time on the perspective of the black pieces should all be under the control of the caster. This was exactly the same as what was recorded in the ancient scroll. Moran murmured. It was strange, but when facing the 2 chess pieces that he made with his own hands, what he felt the most was not jubilation, but fear. What was he afraid of? He did not know, but his heart was in extreme turmoil. He knew that he was standing on the edge of a cliff. No, he had already fallen off the cliff, and below there was only darkness, an endless abyss. He could not see the bottom. He could not see if there was fire or death waiting for him. He could not see where it would end. He only felt as if there was a soul in his body that was screaming and writhing in pain, but it soon shattered into powder and debris. He trembled, reached out, and touched the cheek of one of the chess pieces. He swallowed, but there was no saliva in his mouth. His lips were chapped and his handsome face was twisted. He stared at that junior disciple and then asked the last question, "What do you want?" "What I want is to be a chess piece for you, even if it costs me my life." Moran stopped trembling. Everything around him suddenly became very quiet, cold, and still, like ice. He had made 2 chess pieces. With 2 chess pieces, he had turned 2 junior disciples whose names he did not even know, into his puppets. If he wanted them to go east, they would not go west. If he wanted them to kill each other, they would not give each other a way out. He was their absolute master. For the practitioner of the Zhenlong chess formation, the worst ones can control dead beings, but the best ones could control living people. Moran's spiritual energy was naturally domineering and fierce. It's obvious that he was extremely talented in this. The first time he cast the move, the chess pieces he made could already control 2 living cultivators, although they were only 2 young, beginner cultivators. After the initial fear, Moran suddenly felt extremely excited. It was as if there was a grand series of scenes slowly unfolding before his eyes. On it was a scene of sensual pleasures, beautiful flowers, and everything in it was within the palms of his hands. Everything was his. Everything he loved, he could tightly hold onto. Anything he hated, he could crush into fine powder. Moran was extremely excited. His heart was still beating fast, even faster than before. However, it was not because of fear, but because of excitement. The Zhenlong chess formation. One of the 3 great forbidden techniques. He had been sneakily studying and practicing and failed tens of thousands of times, but he finally learned. He finally succeeded. He did extremely well. The whole world would be in his. With these black chess pieces, he could do many things that he could not do before. He could make the people north of the desert to Jiangnan his henchmen. The scenes in front of him were full of myriad of colors, extremely dazzling. It was as if he could do anything, as if he could have anything. Ran. Suddenly, a familiar cold voice interrupted him. Like a basin of cold water, those vermilion buildings and high platforms seemed to collapse in an instant. He seemed to fall from the clouds to the cold hard ground, falling back into the oppressive reality. Moran slowly turned his head, his eyes scarlet and ferocious. Facing the moonlight, he saw the cold man in white standing on the gravel ground. The want not to ever see Chu Wanning was never been as strong as it was in the moment. "What are you doing here?" Moran secretly clenched his hands into fists, pursed his lips and did not immediately answer. Behind him stood 2 Zhenlong chess pieces, but they were not done perfectly yet. If Chu Wanning walked closer and looked carefully, he would definitely find something strange, and then everything would be exposed. With Chu Wanning's personality, he would probably pull out his tendons, break his legs, and destroy his spiritual core. Then, he would burn all the ancient books that he had copied from the forbidden area of the library. Seeing that he did not speak, Chu Wanning slightly frowned. His pure white silk shoe stepped on the gravel and took a step forward. But he had only took that one step. Then he stopped and looked at the 2 strange disciples standing behind Moran. Not caring about anything else, Moran lightly crooked his little finger and, almost using all of his willpower, he roared the order in his heart. Finally, the 2 disciples moved as he wished. One of the disciples laughed. "You threw it too close. The stone I threw just now went definitely farther than yours. You're just bragging, anyway you." "Ah, Elder Yu Heng." They acted as usual, playing around like before. When they saw Chu Wanning, they were even stunned for a moment. Then the two of them bowed to Chu Wanning one after another. Chu Wanning looked at them a few times, feeling that something was wrong but could not exactly point out what it was. Greetings to Elder. Greetings to Elder Yuheng. The two disciples restrained their smiles and politely greeted Chu Wanning and tactfully planned to leave. Chu Wanning frowned, but his eyebrows did not loosen. His gaze was fixed on the two chess pieces walking over from the riverbank, coming close to him, brushing past his shoulder and walking in the direction of the bamboo forest. He stared at the two for a long time, then turned his head, his gaze once again falling on Mo Ran. Mo Ran secretly sighed in relief, but before he could completely relax, he heard Chu Wanning suddenly said, "Stop." Mo Ran's expression changed slightly. In fact, his fingernails had already left red marks in his palms, but he did not say anything. He quietly observed Chu Wanning's subtle expressions, observed Chu Wanning's every move. Chu Wanning said to the two frozen figures, "Come back." Mo Ran had no choice but to brace himself and have the two chess pieces listen to his orders. He had them slowly walked back from the end of the bamboo forest and stood in front of Chu Wanning. The light clouds moved and the full moon peeked out. Under the bright moonlight, Chu Wanning stared at the faces of the two disciples. He suddenly raised his hand, the tip of his finger covering the side of one of the disciples' neck. Mo Ran stared closely at Chu Wanning's expression. His expression did not change, but his heart was beating wildly. He knew that Chu Wanning must have felt that something was wrong, so he suddenly stretched out his hand to check the disciple's pulse. It must be known that those who had just learned to cast the Zhenlong chess formation could generally only control corpses, not living people. Although these two chess pieces were directly made from living people, Mo Ran was not sure if he had done it perfectly. He was not sure if he had killed them the instant he inserted the black chess pieces into their hearts. After an unknown period of time, Chu Wanning finally dropped his hand. He then brushed his sleeve and said, "You can go." Only then did Mo Ran felt that the blade poised against his neck move away. Chu Wanning did not notice. The heavens had its eye on him, allowing him to steal a life under Chu Wanning's eyes. After the two disciples left, Chu Wanning glanced at him and then said, "It's so late, why are you here?" Mo Ran said, "I was just passing by." He controlled his tone very well. He did not suddenly have a good attitude towards Chu Wanning just because he had a guilty conscience. Perhaps it was this cold and disobedient attitude that made Chu Wanning, who should have been suspicious, purse his lips and remain silent for a moment. He did not want to spend a moment with Chu Wanning, so he moved his gaze away and walked forward. But just as he was about to walk shoulder to shoulder with him, Chu Wanning suddenly said something that made him tense in an instant. "Someone has recently snuck into the forbidden area of the book collection pavilion." Mo Ran did not turn his head, but there was a faint light in his eyes. You should know that the 10 great sects were in charge of a few incomplete forbidden technique scrolls. Mo Ran stopped in his tracks and said, "I know. One of the most important remnants has obvious traces of being flipped through." Mo Ran laughed coldly, "What does that have to do with me?" He was stubbornly holding on. He knew once Tianwen was brought out and used to interrogate him, then his evil deeds and the budding demons in his heart would be exposed under Chu Wanning's eyes. His dreams, his aspirations, would all be over. Chu Wanning was silent for a moment. "Mo Ran, how long are you going to be stubborn for?" There was a faint trace of anger in his voice. Mo Ran did not answer, but he could almost predict what would happen next. He could foresee the flash of Tianwen's golden light. He could foresee how Chu Wanning would question him with a righteous expression on his face as he asked why he do such a thing. In any case, in Chu Wanning's eyes, he would always be so. Do you know how dangerous the situation is? Deficient by nature, beyond remedy. He drily finished the words in his mind. Then he turned his head in a daze. Under the moonlight, he looked at Chu Wanning's face. His face was pale and there was a faint uneasiness under his sword-like eyebrows. A pair of clear eyes looked at him, but he didn't see through anything. He didn't see through him. If someone was really practicing that forbidden technique, people will get killed. You did not sleep at night and came to such a desolate place. Do you want to lose your life for nothing? Chu Wanning's voice was low, as if he was gritting his teeth. With so many people who lost their lives during the battle in the Heavenly Rift Calamity, did it not teach you how to cherish your life? Since you know that someone could be casting forbidden technique, how can you be so carefree? Mo Ran was silent, his dark eyes staring at him. His forehead was full of sweat. At this time, he slowly calmed down, and when the wind blew, it felt cold. His body relaxed bit by bit and he did not know what kind of strange feeling filled his heart. In the end, Mo Ran almost smiled. Shizun. Chu Wanning's phoenix eyes flickered slightly. Since Shi Mei's death, Mo Ran had never smiled at him and rarely called him Shizun anymore. Mo Ran smiled and asked, "Are you worried about me?" His smile became even brighter. It was so bright that it was like a knife. The clean knife went in and became stained with red when it came out. With a puff, it went into his chest and the blade got coated with his blood. Mo Ran slowly opened his mouth like a demon, revealing his white teeth, like the poisonous claws of a scorpion. The Heavenly Rift Calamity. He chuckled. It's great that Shizun can mention the Heavenly Split. It's not important what I learned from that battle. The important thing is that Shizun learned how to be concerned for others. He saw the light in Chu Wanning's eyes trembled as he tried his best not to tense up, but he could not dodge in time and had no way to retreat. The smile on Mo Ran's face became more and more exaggerated, twisted, and cruel. He invaded him, bit him, and chewed on Chu Wanning's throat. He suddenly seemed very happy as he laughed loudly. Ha ha ha, good, very good, this is a good deal. A lowly disciple has changed Grandmaster Chu's conscience. Grandmaster Chu finally cares about the life and death of the people around him. Shizun, today I finally find something positive about Shi Mei's death. Even someone as calm and cold as Chu Wanning couldn't help but tremble slightly under his deranged laughter that sounded like a vulture which was circling in the air. Mo Ran. Something good came out from Shi Mei's death. His death is righteous, his death is worth it. Mo Ran, you. Stop laughing like that. Don't say things like that again. But he could not say it. Chu Wanning could not say it. He could not beg for mercy, he could not beg for understanding, and he could not reprimand this disciple who was on the verge of madness. He could not say, "You're wrong. It's not that I don't want to save him, but it's because I don't have the strength. I also suffered the same injury as him. If I had used even one more bit of spiritual energy, I would have ended dead as well, which would result more deaths." Maybe he felt that this kind of confession was too weak. Or maybe he felt that in Mo Ran's heart, even if he died, he was not worth mentioning and could not compare to Shi Mingjing, who was the gentlest to him. That's why in the end, Chu Wanning could only suppress the trembling in his voice as he said in a low voice, one word at a time, "Mo Weiyu, how long are you going to continue this madness? Go back." His anger boiled with grief and his throat was full of bitterness. Shi Mingjing did not die so you can turn into a madman. Shizun's words are wrong. Mo Ran laughed. How could Shi Mei's death be on my behalf? He was like a poisonous beast, poking at people's hearts. He's dead and the one who's returned is clearly you, Shizun. The poison was pierced into his flesh. Looking at Chu Wanning's deathly pale face, he felt a pang of pleasure in his heart. He provoked him as if he did not care about his life, mocked him and made Chu Wanning suffer a fate worse than death. Excellent. They could go to hell together. I also want to go back. Mo Ran smiled calmly, his deep dimples were like wine brewing. I also don't want to wander around in the middle of the night. But right across from my room was his room. Mo Ran did not say his name, but the implied intimacy made Chu Wanning feel even more tormented. The light in his room will never be lit again. Chu Wanning closed his eyes. Mo Ran smiled. After a long time, his expression gradually calmed down. I want to ask for him for a bowl of wontons to eat, but I can't get it anymore. For a moment, Chu Wanning's eyelashes trembled, his lips moved slightly, as if he wanted to say something. But Mo Ran did not give him the chance to do so, nor did he give him the courage to say it. Mo Ran continued his ridicule. Shizun, the best wontons are best made by people in Shu with red oil and spicy pepper, which are things you hated the most. Back then, you wanted to make a bowl of wontons for me, and I appreciate your kindness. But the things you make, I know without even tasting them that there's only one idiom that could allude to them. Chu Wanning still did not open his eyes, the space between his brows slightly furrowed. It seemed that this way, he could avoid the sharp swords that were coming out of his lips and tongue. I haven't studied much, but fortunately, I heard Xuemeng mention that idiom a few days ago. I feel that it is very suitable for Shizun's wontons. What was it? A waste of effort? Wasted effort? Chu Wanning searched chaotically in his mind, as if he was busy trying to find a fitting armor. He found the most unpleasant word to fortify himself up, so as to avoid being humiliated too badly. Worthless. Mo Ran still did not open his mouth. That word was sinking between his lips and teeth. Yes, worthless. Chu Wanning firmly believed that there was nothing more chilling than this. He calmed down. Until he heard Mo Ran calmly say, "Make a fool of yourself by imitating others." He opened his eyes, almost in a daze. He did not think that the other would be so vicious. Under the sleeves of his robes, his hands were trembling slightly. Kneading the dough, seasoning, mixing the stuffing, facing the Shu food record, he earnestly read each word and instruction. His face was stained with flour, and the wontons he made went from crooked to perfectly shaped and cued. He had studied the recipe well and had worked hard to cook the dish, only to be told that he was making a fool of himself by imitating others. The river bank at night was suffused with silver light. Mo Ran looked at him. Chu Wanning stood where he was for a while. Suddenly, without saying a word, he turned and left. For some reason, Mo Ran always felt that on that day, his footsteps were a bit fast. He was not as calm and steady as before. It was like he was defeated, like he was running away. He did not know why, but there was a faint trace of uncertainty in his heart. He furrowed his brows, looking at Chu Wanning's back. Just as that back was about to disappear, he finally called out, "Wait." End chapter.